And if you see the historical perspective, and the mankind first used the paints. If you see the cave paintings, in India we have Ajanta Ellora caves. There are some cave paintings are there. The first we have used the painting. Then you see in the Greek and Roman civilization, they have used it mainly for the decorative purpose, actually the architectural coating. And then ingredients, if you see charcoal, stamps, water, and eggplant, and and the natural resins like amber. And then later came the turpentine oil or the plant extract they used as a solvent system. And the 70s, because if you see as the industry, next to gasoline industry, paint is contributing more to the global warming. So there are research happening how to avoid those things, how we can use natural things for more sustainable future. So this is one such prehistoric cave when some people have went for their lost dog. They found that in France, in a cave of Lascaux, they found some of these paints. These are when they first came to the world. And if you see chemically, when you see these paints, when they did the analysis, they found that maybe you have kind of pigments like iron and manganese oxide, and then mixed with the egg boil, animal fats, plant sap, and or water, and then applied to the cave walls. And most of them are kind of, you can see some animals only images there. So why it is important is that people itself, they know that paint is not a simple thing. It's a mixture of several things. They use various things to come. So these are some, as already told, why you can apply paint. There are different types of coatings: organic coatings, metallic coatings, and multifunctional coatings. And see, if you see clear-cut definition, what's a coating? A protective coating. I can say that a protective coating is any synthetic resin or inorganic silicate polymers. Why underline means it is synthetic resins only, not natural resins. So for a protective coating means you need to have a synthetic resins, and then when you apply it on a substrate, it should resist any industrial or marine environments and prevent serious breakdown of the basic structure in spite of any abrasion you are doing, any hole disease there in the coating, and any imperfection in the coating. So the major purpose is the protection, long-term protection. And another thing you see, it should resist any penetration of iron, any chemical species, water, oxygen for a quite long time. And then it should minimize the action of any kind of osmosis due to a difference in salt concentration. Plus, most of the metals will expand and contract. Along the metal is expanding and contract, the paint also will undergo the expansion and contract. Otherwise, it will blister up. And then it should have an aesthetic value also in addition to protection, and quite long time that the clothes should not go out. The clothes should be there quite long time. And then it is chemically different paints and surpass paint in adhesion, toughness, resistance, and chemical weather resistance. So if you say paint is generally, you can say mostly the natural resins and some linseed oil mixing and applying. What is happening is there is no chemical reaction between the different components there. Only evaporation is happening and a layer is formed, and the layer will oxidize continuously, and one day pinholes will form in that and undergo corrosion. And mainly we are using it for the aesthetic purpose. And now if you see the anatomy of the coatings or a paint, why important thing is, you can see the cave painting itself, they know the importance of different ingredients in a paint. If you see now the new terminology we can use it, resins and then additives, pigments and solvents. In the olden days also they used like animal fats and all those things as a resins, and then the solvents like turpentine oil and various pigments like iron and manganese oxide. And this is resins. Anybody know any resins name, students? Any resin have you come across? Binder, resin, anything? Epoxy, have you heard about epoxy, polyurethane? These are all resins only. So this is one of the important things, because the chemical property or physical and all the mechanical property of the coating is controlled by this chemistry of this resin only. And this is pigments. Pigments are also very important. There are different types of pigments, like flat, flaky pigments are available, and the corrosive pigments are available. Then TAU is a white pigment, and there are different colored pigments also available. We have a lab session in the afternoon. We will explain that in detail what is the role of the pigments in the coating formulation. And then additives. In addition to the pigments, there are some important things, additives only, in order to modify the viscosity of the painting. So we will add some kind of additives, like some plasticizers. in order to have improve the UV stability of the coating, you need to have a zinc oxide kind of additives. So these are the second part, and then finally solvents. The solvents is if you enter a newly painted room, you get some kind of smell, right? What is smelling? In fact, this solvent, this is the evaporator. Okay, so solvent either you can use water or any other organic solvents like xylene, toluene, all those. So this is another important concept, volume solid, because we have seen that in the paint we have binder and pigment, additives and solvent, and the solid part of that, because solvent will go out, but remaining on the surface after drying the film. So that is what the volume solid is here. Volume solid is volume of the pigment plus volume of the binder plus volume of the any additive if you are adding. And why it is very important is volume solid will define how thick your coating, what's the build of your coating. Plus, it also allows us to find out various other things like what is the dry film build. That is when you are coated, when you are applying the paint, you will have a wet film thickness. That is in the paint in the liquid form only. And after it is completely drying, you will have dry film thickness. The volume solid only will define how thick your coating is. From the volume solid, there are some equations are there. You can calculate the spreading rate and the dry film thickness as well as the wet film thickness. And here you can see that, a typical example we have mentioned here, additives 1%, vehicle 56 and pigment is 7 and resin is 26. Vehicle is nothing but solvent only. So you will see what is the volume solid here, 7 of the pigment plus 36 resin is 40 only. Mil means 1 mil is equal to 25 microns. Okay, and when it is getting solidified, you is having, I told you to find out the DFB, you can multiply your wet film with the volume solid, you are getting 2.6 mils on the dry film. And this is how will you measure the wet film thickness. Here this one is a wet film thickness gauge, and after application of paint, we will keep the gauge there. We will find out where the paint touches the last one. Here in the 11th point of the paint touch, that means the 11 mils is the wet film thickness. And if you know the volume solid, we know that 3 will multiply with that, you will get its dry film thickness. And there is another important thing, pigment volume concentration, because how much pigment you can apply in a coating. This is showing pigment volume concentration is volume of the pigment plus volume of any fillers added divided by volume of the pigment, fillers plus binder. This is the difference, you cannot add any amount of pigment into your coatings. There is a limit for that, the critical pigment volume concentration. You can see when you have very low PVC, there is a large number of distance between the particles. When a high PVC means they are much close packed. In some of the coatings, you need a close packed pigments. In some other coatings, you don't need it. And this clearly explains, here you can see the pigments are less number of pigments here. The gloss is very high. And when the amount of pigment is going in this direction, and this point is known as the CPVC, critical pigment volume concentration. If increase more than that, you can see voids will come. Because when the more pigments, the binder, the resin cannot hold it together. So voids will come. In case blistering will be, early failure of the coating can happen. And now we will come back to the corrosion control. There are mainly 3 mechanisms. One is barrier, another one is cathodic protection, and another is inhibitor primers. Barrier means if you are applying a paint means the paint is acting as a physical barrier between the atmosphere and the substrate. So it is 2 mechanisms here. One is resistance inhibition. It is acting as a good film. It stops any kind of ionic conduction between the environment and the substrate. Another one is oxygen deprivation. Because baric, the first class, so less cathodic reaction, you can control corrosion. And to control all those things, water to entry inside the coating, roughly such kind of coating should be a very thick films, like more than 20 in the NaCl solution. So the H2O, NaCl or O2 can come, but the path length will be increased here. One is that it is forming a resistance inhibition. Another is oxygen deprivation, because this barrier pigment, the flaky pigment aligned parallelly to the substrate, take more time to come and attack the substrate. And there are two types of binders you can use, like thermoplastic binders as well as thermosetting binders. Thermoplastic binders are single pack system only. Thermosetting are two pack system. You have part A and part B. You might have seen the araldite as well as the M-seal. M-seal you have two part, right? You have to mix the A and B in the correct proportion, then only you have to apply. So these things we will see in the practicals in the afternoon. We have both the single pack as well as two pack, and how the chemical reaction is taking place in the two pack we will show. And this is how we can have some kind of, what kind of pigments you have to choose for a coating. Especially for barrier coating, you have to choose a lamellar pigment. When you can see, when you have a lamellar pigment, when the corrosion simulators are coming, it has to travel through this thing and touch the substrate. So the path length is more. The corrosive stimulant has to travel through that. For example, we have talc, micaceous iron oxide, and aluminum oxide. These are the flaky pigments. And another thing is that this is a typical pigment distribution. It's a monodisperse. Next one is a polydisperse, different size of the pigment. And this is a lamellar with the polydisperse. So in the polydisperse is much better as well as the reduce the infiltration. And this is again this is with the PVC only. You can see that you should not add too much pigment here in this one because barrier protection. So if too many pigments are there, cracks or voids can be formed in the coating. Then unnecessary this oxygen water can enter and can start corrosion. Then again solvent, you have to choose the right solvent. For example, you are choosing a hydrophilic solvent. What is hydrophilic? Hydrophilic means it invites water. So some of solvents are like that. So if when the paint is being dried, the solvent can still be there for some time. So that time it invites water, means water is coming inside. So you have to avoid hydrophilic solvents. Instead you have to use hydrophobic solvents. But again some problem is there. Some of the binders will mix nicely with the hydrophilic solvents only, not hydrophobic. So you have to have a compromise in such kind of case. Rightly you have to formulate the paint. Oh. And another important is wet adhesion. We'll tell that adhesion is removed. You need a kind of emery papers. Then there are some kind of hand tools are available, scrapers. Then power tools are there. These things you have to use, remove the existing coating. And we have seen some images in the previous classes. Some mild steel sheet is having some kind of corrosion products. If those corrosion products are there, you are applying the coating, what will happen? It will not adhere properly. After drying, the film can lift it off. So you need to remove all those things. So that kind of adhesion is dry adhesion. But wet adhesion is when the coating is in service, under immersion condition, always water is in touch with your coating. In that condition, whether your coating is able to adhere with the metal or not. That is what wet adhesion. So wet adhesion is also very important. To have a wet adhesion, good wet adhesion, you have to choose such kind of binder or resin system which is having a kind of reactive species on the surface. Like epoxy means you have a OH group is there, and alkyd paints means you have carboxyl group is there. So they can attach with the surface metal oxides. Most of the metals will have a metal oxide. So there is kind of a valency kind of bonding between the resin and the substrate. Move. So another one is film thickness. Two things are here. You cannot simply add build to any height. Like you can have one maybe 10,000 micron also and 1,000 microns also. But when you are adding more and more film, the internal stress can develop. So that is also not a solution for that. So what we have to check here is either you can have a single coat with a high build or a multi-coat with a high build. The difference is that in a single coat, if there are some pinholes are in a single coat, it can be throughout the coating. But multi-coat means one coating, some pinhole here, on the top coat pinhole can be another place, not exactly same place. So the direct pathway is restricted. So that way you can increase the film thickness, you can increase the life of the coating. And this is the second important thing, that is sacrificial coating. You may know that if zinc and iron, which will be anode, which is cathode? If a zinc and iron is connected, zinc anode, zinc cathode. No, zinc is anode and zinc will undergo corrosion. So this is the principle we are using in a sacrificial coating. And this coating, we need to have a very high loading of zinc. each zinc particle should touch each other. Next. You see, each zinc particle should touch each other, and the zinc particle should touch the steel surface also, and then only you can have a continuous electrical conductivity there. Then only it will undergo corrosion, it will protect. Zinc will undergo corrosion, zinc corrosion products will form, the underlying iron will be protected. And the zinc primers, there are two types, organic and inorganic. Move again. Yeah, this is a previous one. This is an inorganic thing. Inorganic thing, you can hear the mechanism is that here the silicate group is there within the presence of water. You have the chemical reaction is happening, and then it will react with the zinc also. When it is forming, this is the adduct finally you are being formed. Move. This is a normal binder system. The pigments if you are adding means a lot of gaps between the pigments, not closely packed. And if you see in the zinc system, it should be closely packed to have a better electrical conductivity. And this is another type, inhibitive primer. And here, this you have to add always in the primer only, that is very close to the metallic substrate. Here some corrosion inhibitors will be added, and most of the corrosion inhibitors will work only in the presence of some water. So some kind of a possibility should be there for the water to enter. Then this inhibitor should get dissolved in the water and come to the point. So generally if you are going to plan for a barrier type coating, don't add any kind of inhibitive pigments there. Move. This is the final stage of the presentation here. Using these things what we learned so far, how you can design a proper coating. So in here you can see, this is a non-barrier type of binder. That means generally they have poor wet adhesion. So different types of pigments I am adding. One is that the first one is I am adding active pigment here. So this is not a non-barrier binder, means water can come inside. In the case of active pigment, these inhibitors can come into play. It can give protection. Another one is you can increase the thickness, or you can add a barrier pigment, or you can go for a combination of both these things. And final one, best one is that you can have both the pigments as well as increased thickness to improve the corrosion protection. This is another type, that is a barrier binder. So this is a barrier binder, means in principle you should go for a barrier pigment only for a better protection. If you add the active pigment there, because in a barrier binder the water cannot come that easily. So whatever you are adding the active pigment, it will not come into action. So it is not required in that. So the best case is always choose a primer exhibiting optimal wet adhesion and simultaneously optimal barrier property, and add the barrier pigment. And this is a typical coating system we'll use in the industries, like we have a top layer and base layer. And you can go with the various thing, depends on what you want. You can go with the top and base as both as the barrier pigment. In that case, you can have a optimum effectiveness will be there. And here you can have a normal pigment as well as a barrier thing. And this is the real scenario. When you are going with the active pigment here, that will work only if there is a defect in the coating. A defect should be there in the coating, electrolyte should come inside, it should allow the active thing to play together. So in principle, a coating system will work in tandem with all the layers. Each layer is having its own protective mechanism. The primer will have some corrosion inhibitors will be there, but that inhibitors to work, water should come inside, and then the top layer will have some kind of barrier property. It will avoid the infiltration of the moisture and oxygen. And this is one in a smart coating system. So what you can see here is, in the first one, they put a scratch and then did some induce the corrosion there. You can see that the scratch is getting reduced here. So what is adding is the real pictorial representation. You can see some kind of yellow color thing. You can see there are some kind of micro nano capsules. Inside the capsules, another catalyst and another reactants are added. A layer is forming there. So in that way, it is self-healing. It's a complete structural self-healing. So we can say that we actually do not have a two-fold protection, but interdependent as well as complementary mechanisms. The entire coating system protects by its barrier action and possible by good wet adhesion, whereas electrochemical mechanism must be restricted to coating defect. Because when you add the inhibitor, it will function only if there is a defect in the coating. So it should be called upon when the defect in the coating, its barrier property is breached. Thank you. If you have any doubts, anything, you can ask. If no, means we'll proceed with the further.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful speech and sharing of the keynotes on basics of catholic protection and paints and coatings.
Now we are moving to paper presentation and oral presentation by the participants. Participants, those who are willing to give oral presentation, please stay back here. If you want to give poster presentation, assemble in room number 28. Thank you.
டியர் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ், இப்போ நம்ம இவர் அருண்சந்திரன் பிரசன்ட் பண்ணார் பார்த்தீங்களா? என்ன பிரசன்ட் பண்ணார்? பெயிண்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் கோட்டிங். பெயிண்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் கோட்டிங்கிறது தான் பேசிக்காக நம்ம ஒரு காலேஜ், நம்ம அரசு காலேஜ்லேயே நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம், இதை இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணலாம் ஈஸியாக. நீங்களே ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்டை வந்து ஒரு பிஎஸ்சி கெமிஸ்ட்ரி ப்ராஜெக்ட்லேயே ஒரு பெயிண்ட் வாங்கி கடையில் வாங்கி நீங்களே அதில் அடித்து என்ன எப்படிலாம் கேரக்டரைஸ் பண்ணலாங்கிறத நாங்கள் மதியம் உங்களுக்கு எப்படின்னு சொல்லி கொடுக்குறோம். ஓகேவா? அதுலேயே நிறைய என்ன சொன்னார், பெயிண்டில் என்னென்ன டைப்ஸ் இருக்குது, இஷ்டத்துக்கு நம்ம பாட்டில் பிக்மெண்ட்டை போட முடியாது. அம்மா காஃபி போடுறாங்கன்னு வச்சிங்களேன், என்னென்னலாம் எடுக்கணும்? பால் எடுக்கணும், சர்க்கரை, டிகாஷன் வேணும். எல்லாராலையும் நல்ல காஃபி போட முடியுமா? கும்பகோணம் ஐயர் காஃபி நல்லா இருக்குது, இன்னொரு டீ கடையில் போனால் காஃபி நல்லா இல்லை. என்னது? அந்த காம்போசிஷன் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். இவ்வளோ தான் பிக்மெண்ட் போடணும், இவ்வளோ தான் பைண்டர் யூஸ் பண்ணணும், இவ்வளோ தான் இங்கே இருக்குது. அதுமாதிரி உப்பு அள்ளி கொட்டு வச்சுன்னா சாம்பார் நல்லா இருக்காது. இவ்வளோதான் எல்லாம். அதே மாதிரி தான் எந்த ஒரு பெயிண்டில் முக்கியமாக பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அந்த காம்போசிஷன் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். இந்த பைண்டர், சால்வெண்ட் எல்லாம் சொன்னார் இல்லையா, நம்ம பாட்டில் இஷ்டத்துக்கு போட்டு நான் என்ன நினைப்போம், நிறைய பிக்மெண்ட் போட்டால் நல்ல ப்ரொடக்ஷன் கொடுக்கும் அப்படின்னு நினைப்போம். கிடையாது. அந்த கான்சன்ட், அதுக்கு தான் நிறைய அந்த ஃபார்முலா பிக்மெண்ட் வால்யூம் கான்சன்ட்ரேஷன் அதெல்லாம் சொன்னார். அதேமாதிரி திக்னஸாக இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். நம்ம பாட்டில் ஒரு பெயிண்ட் அடிச்சு விட்டோம்னு வச்சுங்க இஷ்டத்துக்கு. சரி, நம்ம இப்போ நம்ம ஒரு செவத்துக்கு பெயிண்ட் அடிக்கிறோம்னா ஒரு 10 மைக்ரான் அடிக்கணும்னு வச்சிங்களேன், ஒரு 10 mm அடிக்கணும்னா சரி ரைட்டாக 20 mm அடிச்சிருவோம். ரொம்ப நாளைக்கு வருமே அப்படின்னு வச்சோம்னா சீக்கிரமாக விழுந்துடும். அதனால தான் இந்த ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் ஆப்டிமைசேஷன், ஸ்டாண்டர்டைசேஷன் இதெல்லாம் வெரி வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் உங்களுக்கு இந்த பெயிண்ட் கோட்டிங்ஸ்லாம் பொறுத்த வரைக்கும். அதே மாதிரி நீங்கள் வந்து இப்போ இவங்க ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ண இது எல்லாத்துலேயுமே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கரோஷனை வந்து நம்ம ப்ரிவென்ட் பண்ணால் ஒரே 4 மெத்தடு தான். அதுக்கு மேலே ஒரு மெத்தட் கூட 5 மெத்தடு தான். ஒன்று வந்து என்ன பண்ணலாம், பெயிண்ட் அடிச்சிடலாம். இன்னொன்று சொன்னார் இல்லையா, அரிமான குறைப்பான்கள். அரிமான குறைச்சல், அவ்வளோதான் அரிமான குறைப்பான்கள். இன்னொன்று என்ன பண்ணலாம், இரும்பு இருக்குன்னா இரும்பு இப்போ இது இருக்குன்னு வச்சுங்க, காப்பர் வந்து கரோஷன் ஆகும், ஜிங்கு கரோஷன் ஆகும். காப்பரையும் ஜிங்கு சேர்த்தோம்னா வீட்டில் இருக்குல்ல பித்தளை, பிராஸ், அதை கொஞ்சம் கரோஷன் ரெசிஸ்டன்ட் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணிடலாம். அது தேர்ட் மெத்தடு. அப்புறம் கேத்தடிக் ப்ரொடக்ஷன், எதிர்மின்வாய் பாதுகாப்பு. நம்ம இதுலலாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, ஸ்க்ரீன்லாம் இந்த மஸ்கிட்டோ ஸ்க்ரீன்லாம் பார்த்துருப்பீங்க. என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா இரும்பு இருக்கும், மேலே வந்து கால்வனைசிங் ஜிங்க் கோட்டிங் கொடுத்துருவாங்க. ஜிங்க் வந்து சீக்கிரமாக கரோடாகி இதை இரும்பை பாதுகாத்துரும். ஸோ அது ஒரு மெத்தடு. அடுத்த மெத்தடு, இரும்பே யூஸ் பண்ணாமல் பிளாஸ்டிக், எஃப்ஆர்பி, ஃபைபர் ரெயின்ஃபோர்ஸ்ட் மெட்டீரியல்ஸ், அந்த மாதிரி. இந்த 5 மெத்தடு தான் இந்த உலகத்திலே இவ்வளோதான் பண்ண முடியும். அது சிக்கிரியா இருந்தாலும் சரி, எந்த எவ்வளோ பெரிய எல்லாம் இருந்தாலும் வித்வுட் த கரெக்ஷன் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் ஒன்லி பை த 5 மெத்தட். என்னென்ன மெத்தட்? பெயிண்ட்ஸு, அரிமான குறைப்பான்களை யூஸ் பண்ணலாம், எதிர்மின்வாய் பாதுகாப்பு, அப்புறம் அல்டர்னேட்டிவ் மெட்டீரியல், ஸ்டீல். இந்த மெத்தடில் தான் நம்ம பண்ண முடியும். இவ்வளோதான் வந்து உங்களுக்கு இப்போ பேசிக்காக உங்களுக்கு கரப்ஷனை பற்றி, கரப்ஷனை மானிட்டரிங்கை பற்றி, கரப்ஷன் ப்ரிவென்ஷன் மெத்தடை பற்றி நாங்கள் உங்களுக்கு இந்த ஒர்க் ஷாப்பில், இது வந்து ஒரு பயிற்சி பட்டறைன்னு பேர். இந்த பயிற்சி பட்டறைனா அரிமானத்தை மானிட்டர் பண்ணுற, கண்காணித்தல், அரிமானத்தை தடுத்தல், இதுதான். இதை வந்து நாங்கள் ஈவினிங் என்ன பண்ணுறோம்னா ஆஃப்டர் லஞ்சு இதை உங்களுக்கு அப்படியே சொல்லிக் கொடுப்பாங்க. இப்போ இது அருண்சந்திரன்ட்டா நீங்கள் கேட்கலாம், சார் நீங்கள் அப்படி சொன்னீங்களே எவ்வளோ பிக்மெண்ட் சேர்க்கணும், நீங்கள் இன்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ணுங்க அவரோட போய். அவர் பெரிய டீமே இருக்கும், அவங்க ஜோதி, சோமனி, அவங்க ரிசர்ச் ஸ்காலர்ஸ் எல்லாம் நிறைய பேர் வந்திருக்காங்க. எப்படி இப்போ மெஷர் பண்ணுறது, எப்படி ஃபிலிம் திக்னஸ் பார்க்குறது. ஏன்னா இந்த கோட்டிங் திக்னஸ் மீட்டர்லாம் நீங்கள் பார்த்துருக்கவே மாட்டீங்க இல்லையா? அதுமாதிரி ஸ்டீலுக்கு எப்படி திக்னஸ் பார்க்குறது, பெயிண்ட் அடித்தா பெயிண்டில் எப்படி பார்க்குறான். கான்கிரீட் இருக்குது, கான்கிரீட் என்ன நினச்சிட்டு இருக்கோம், கான்கிரீட் வந்து கரெக்ஷன் ஆகாது, ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அவர் ஒன்று சொன்னார், பெயிண்ட்ஸுக்கும் கோட்டிங் என்ன டிஃபரன்ஸ்? பெயிண்ட்னா என்ன, கோட்டிங்னா என்ன சொன்னாரு? கரெக்ட், டெக்கரேஷன். இப்போ நம்ம வீட்டில் சொல்றோம், நம்ம வீட்டுக்கு என்ன பண்றோம்? வீட்டில் அப்பா மாட்டேன் அவன் எதாவது சொல்றாங்கன்னா வீட்டுக்கு பெயிண்ட் அடிக்கணும் தான் சொல்லுவோம், கோட்டிங் அடிக்கணும் தான் சொல்லுவோம். இதே இது சார் டிஎன்பிஎல் போனீங்கன்னா அவங்க இன்ஸ்பெக்டர் என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க? சார் எங்களுக்கு கோட்டிங் தான் அடிக்கணும்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஏன்னா அவங்களுக்கு கரப்ஷன் ப்ரிவென்ஷன் இஸ் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். உங்களுக்கு வீடு எப்படி இருக்கணும்? பக்கத்து வீட்டுக்காரங்க விட நம்ம கலர் நல்லா இருக்கணும், நம்ம வீட்டை தான் எல்லாம் பார்க்கணும். அங்கே வந்து கரப்ஷன் ப்ரிவென்ஷன் இஸ் நாட் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். நமக்கு அழகாக இருக்கணும். அவன் வந்து ப்ளூ கலர் அடிச்சானா நம்ம ரெட் கலர் அடிப்போம், ப்ரௌன் கலர் அடிப்போம். இப்படி ஒரு போட்டி, அது நல்லது தானே. அது வந்து ஒரு அஸ்தெட்டிக் அப்ளிகேஷன். இதுதான் பெயிண்ட்ஸுக்கும் கோட்டிங் உள்ள டிஃபரன்ஸ். இப்போ வந்து அடுத்தது நம்ம இப்போ நெக்ஸ்ட் ஓரல் ப்ரெசன்டேஷன். ஓரல் ப்ரெசன்டேஷன் என்ன பண்ணா, ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டும் உங்கள் பேர் கூட்டோடனே நீங்கள் வந்து இங்கே ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணுங்க. 5 minutes 10 minutes எடுத்துக்கலாம். அவங்க ஜட்ஜ், இண்டிவிஜுவல் ஜட்ஜஸ் அவங்க இருப்பாங்க. அவங்க மார்க்லாம் நோட் பண்ணிப்பாங்க. ஒன்றுமே பிரச்சனை இல்லை, பயப்படாமல் ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணுங்க. அங்கெல்லாம் இருக்கும், உங்களை பார்த்துக்கலாம்.
Participants, those who are give PPT presentation, kindly send your PPT to arasukm0462@gmail.com. Display on the board.
For oral presentation, first we welcome T. Raja, Assistant Professor, Jamal Mohammed College, Karur.
Very good morning to one and all gathered here. Good morning. Before I am going to present my research work, first of all, I would like to thank to the management of Arasu College of Arts and Science for Women and head of the chemistry department and staff members. I am working as assistant professor of chemistry in Rich Engineering College, but my research work is going on proper direction in Jamal Mohammed College under the guidance of Dr. S.S. Syed Abudahir. My research topic is absorption and corrosion studies of the aqueous extract of Cariza carandus lin, plant leaves inhibitor, lives on carbon steel in hydrochloric acid. Next, madam, next. The corrosion is the major problem in our world. The corrosion is nothing but the deterioration or destruction of metals and other metals or chemical or electrochemical reactions. But how to control the corrosion means the various organic and inorganic inhibitors are available, but nowadays the green inhibitors are also available. Nowadays the plant leaves extract used as a corrosion inhibitor because it's containing polar groups and heteroatoms to adsorb on the carbon steel surface. Next. Our aim and scope of the research work is to use the Carica carandus sling. Carica carandus is a botanical name, but its common name is Bengal currant. The corrosion inhibitor is controlling the corrosion of carbon steel immersed in 1-normal hydrochloric acid. We have to add the inhibitor. What will happen? The inhibition efficiency and corrosion rate of the corrosion inhibitor by weight loss method. Next one, the plant extract by weight loss method. Third one, the Carica carandus adsorption isotherm, Langmuir and Temkin adsorption isotherm. Last one, FTIR studies. Next one, the composition of carbon steel, sulfur, phosphorus, manganese, carbon and iron. The preparation of stock solutions. The preparation methods are displayed. The aqueous extract of plant extracts were prepared by the method of Soxhlet extraction. About 10 gram of powdered plant leaves of Carica carandus uniformly packed in a thimble extraction. After the process of extraction, the extract was kept overnight cooling in the mat of 1000 ml with the same double distilled water and 10%. Okay, next. Then weight loss method. It is a very simple method. The weight loss method, the inhibition efficiency calculation, the following this formula, W0 minus W1 divided by W0 into 100. Next. The effect of concentration. We have to increase the concentration. Inhibition efficiency also increases. But the inhibition efficiency, we are adding the inhibitor 2 ml, 4, 6 and 8, 10 ml. But the inhibition efficiency is highly 10% of the inhibitor. Then next, the effect of temperature. We have to increase the temperature. The inhibition efficiency decreases. Corrosion rate increases. Next. Adsorption isotherm. Adsorption isotherm, the Carica carandus plant leaves extract obey the Langmuir and Temkin adsorption isotherm. We can calculate the following this formula. Next. Energy of activation, the inhibition efficiency, corrosion rate is equal to A exponential minus A by RT. And then the delta free energy change, delta G not equal to adsorption. Following this formula, we can calculate the free energy change. Next. The resultant discussion, the inhibitor, we have to add the inhibitor. It is found that 10% of the extract of Carica carandus offers only 93.3%, 90.330% of inhibition efficiency. The increase in inhibition efficiency due to the blacking effect on the surface of the metal by adsorption. This is due to an increase of surface coverage at higher concentration of the Carica carandus, which retard the dissolution of carbon steel. Next. The effect of concentration of active extract of Carica carandus plant. Only we have to add the 2 ml, 4, 6, 8, 10 ml. Above 10 ml, we have to add the inhibitor. There is no any change in the corrosion inhibition efficiency. Next. This is the inhibition efficiency and temperature values are noted. First, the 303 Kelvin, there is a blank solution. We have to add the 2 ml. The following values are obtained. And then the 10 ml of the inhibitor. First one blank solution. Last the inhibitor added 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 ml. 10 ml the corrosion inhibition rate is only 17.80. Next. Next, adsorption isotherm. The Carica carandus plant leaves obey the Langmuir adsorption isotherm and the Temkin adsorption isotherm. The following values are detailed in the board. Next. Next. The Langmuir adsorption isotherm curves are displayed for the adsorption of Carica carandus plant leaves on the carbon steel in 1-normal hydrochloric acid and different temperature 303 and 313, 323 and 333 Kelvin. But the highest inhibition efficiency is only 303 Kelvin. Next. Temkin adsorption also, just like the Langmuir adsorption also. 303 Kelvin is the highest adsorption efficiency. Next. Temkin adsorption isotherm curves are displayed. So this is also the 303 Kelvin is the highest inhibition efficiency. Next. Free energy adsorption, the blank solution 303 Kelvin 12.106 and last one the 33 Kelvin 13.503. So the inhibition efficiency also increases. Next. Energy of activation, the energy of activation blank solution 26.20, the aqueous extract of Carissa carandas plant leaves inhibitor added the 53.30, energy of activation increases. Next. FTIR spectra. FTIR spectra to determine the interaction of the inhibitor molecules and the inhibitor. Next. The IR bands, the FTIR bands or values are obtained. The OH, CH stretching, CO stretching, CN stretching, and CC, Fe2 plus inhibitor. Fe2 plus inhibitor reacts with inhibitor molecule, the control the inhibition efficiency also increases. Next. This is the graph FTIR spectrum of actors extract of Carissa carandas plant leaves, and then next diagram is with inhibitor. Next. Conclusion. Our present study leads to the following conclusion. The good corrosion inhibition efficiency next shows the inhibition efficiency is 93.30%. The third one, inhibition efficiency increases with increase in concentration but decrease with the temperature. The last one, the Langmuir and the Carissa carandas plant leaves inhibitor obeys the Langmuir and Temkin adsorption isotherm. That's all.
Any questions?
Sir? Carissa carandas plant, sir. The common name is Bengal currant. I don't know. Okay, sir. I don't know. Carissa carandas, sir. Tamil name Kalakai. Kalakai. Bengal currant. English name Bengal currant, sir. Leaves, sir. Leaves. Palmitic acid and cucurbitacin B. Sir. Sir? Organic and inorganic inhibitors are mostly hazardous, so we are using only green inhibitors, eco-friendly in nature. Sir. Inhibition efficiency is drastically reduced, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, sir, 2 or 3 days, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Sir. Increase the temperature, inhibition efficiency is decreases, sir. 303 length, 323, 303, 33. We are using only green inhibitors, sir. Green inhibitor. Not. carries occur on plant leaves. Sir? Yes, sir. Research papers. Sir. Equipment, sir. Equipment. Any queries?
Thank you, sir. Next, I welcome Abdul Rahman Inzoman Vehaha, Jamal Muhammad College, Karur.
Shall we start? Good morning to one and all gathered here. Pleasant morning to one and all gathered here. I am here to explain the topic under corrosion inhibition effect of mild steel in sodium chloride solution by using citric acid. Here citric acid acts as the corrosion inhibitor. Okay, inhibitor is nothing but resistor, and sodium chloride solution, mild steel composition consists of copper, lead, carbon and iron. Myself Abdul Rahman, he is Inzamamul Haq, and he is Dinesh, representing the Jamal Muhammad College. Corrosion is nothing but the gradual destruction or deterioration of metals by chemicals or any other environmental activities. Mild steel is immersed in an aqueous solution consisting of 60 ppm, which is parts per million in sodium chloride solution. Various organic compounds such as anisole, aniline, which electron giving groups acts as corrosion inhibitors. In mild steel we have used citric acid. Organic compounds containing polar groups and heteroatoms containing hydrogen and sulfur also strongly absorbed on the mild steel surface. Next please. Citric acid, the aim and the scope of the research work is citric acid is the corrosion inhibitor, as we said earlier, immersed in an aqueous solution of sodium chloride containing 60 ppm of chlorine. To evaluate the inhibition efficiency and the corrosion rate of the corrosion inhibitor by weight loss method. The mechanistic aspect of corrosion inhibition, the mechanism of the corrosion inhibition by electrochemical studies such as polarization and impedance studies. Impedance studying is nothing but the opposition of the electrical flow. To analyze the surface film by FTIR spectra, for some term IR spectra. The purpose, the suitable mechanism of corrosion inhibition based on the above results. The next will be continued by Inzamamul Haq.
Well, myself, Inzamamul Haq. Then the preparation of the mild steel is very easy. The composition is like mixing of lead, cadmium, iron, copper, and rest of with the iron. Because formation of alloy is the big main thing. Because when the two metal get mixed, the corrosion rate can be reduced, which is highly useful in industries. Then the chemical we used here is analytical grade citric acid and sodium chloride solution. Then preparation of stock solution. Stock solution is nothing but dissolving a minimum amount of citric acid in a small amount of ethanol, and just we are making with the distilled water, and then it can be used for the further processes. Next.
Weight loss method measurements were performed for 24 hours. The mild steel is immersed in the sodium chloride solution and the 60 ppm of a Cl minus. With after that we can taken out and washed and dried the weight accurately. By the following equation we can find the inhibition efficiency of a metal.
Potentiodynamic polarization method. In this, 3 electrodes will be placed, and then only 1 meter square of the electrode will be placed in the air, and the rest of the double air capacitance is nothing but it is a double air capacitance is nothing but it is a 1 by 2 pi RT into F max, where RT means charge transfer and F max is a spectroscopy constant. Okay, next. For a FTIR spectroscopy is generally known as. In this, the the mild steel will be placed in a required solution like like aqueous chloride solution. In that, the citric acid will be molded on the steel. Then after 2 hours of time, it will be taken and it will be dried on the surface of the steel. The citric acid will be present, so it is carefully taken and then it is mixed with the KBr like pellets. Pellets means like a powdered form, and then using FTIR spectroscopy we can find out the the structures and can be found out. Next. As we discussed earlier, when the concentration of the citric acid increases, the charge transfer increases as well as the double layer decreases. The impedance decreases. As of it, the values from 635.3 ohm centimeter square to 670.2 ohm centimeter square, the value increases. As we told earlier, the double capacitance value will be decreases. As a result, the protective layer will be formed on the mild steel. Next. As mentioned earlier, it is a graph. It is a pictorial representation of a 60 ppm aqueous chloride and 60 ppm aqueous chloride with citric acid. That's it. Thank you. Then by using the FTIR, the various by applying to the various functional groups, the values has been plotted. In this, the second column represents the pure citric acid component, and the third column represents with the 60 ppm aqueous chloride with 250 mm citric acid. The value will be almost equal because it forms a good uniform layer of in a mild steel. A mechanism, and the mechanism is quite easier because when you dip the mild steel in a aqueous chloride solution with the citric acid, it forms a layer with the layer with the iron, and it forms a iron citric acid complex, which can be studied in a FTIR, which can be predicted using it.
The conclusion has been drawn here. The citric acid inhibitor exhibit good corrosion inhibition efficiency by decreasing the corrosion efficient. Polarization study shows the effective citric acid system functions as mixed type inhibitor, controlling the anodic and cathodic reactions predominantly. Electrochemical impedance etc. measures that the increase in charge transfer resistance decrease the double layer capacitance in the middle steel layer. In the corrosion current values owing to increased thickness of the observed layer. The observed layer, the mild steel present on the corrosion, citric acid present on the mild steel is observed increased thickness of the observed layer. FTIR spectral level reveals the protective film of consists of Fe2 plus citric acid complex. Thank you.
For any questions from the topic,
You said about the usage of citric acid here. What is the optimum concentration of citric acid you prescribe for a higher corrosion inhibitory efficiency?
Sir, please, question.
Yeah. Actually, what is the optimum concentration of the citric acid what you use for this project? You prescribe for the higher corrosion inhibitory efficiency.
Sir, 250 ppm, sir. Citric acid consists of concentration.
And
60 ppm chlorine solution.
okay. So for 60 ppm chloride solution, 250 ppm of citric acid you can
Maximum.
use. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good work.
Thank you, sir.
Can you please, you not included the equivalent circuit diagram, right? For analyzing the impedance spectroscopy, you would have used equivalent circuit diagram, right?
Sir, no, sir, we have represented the graphs, sir.
I just wanted to see the equivalent circuit which you have used for that. Because you will be measuring the CDL or, right?
Yes, sir.
That the capacitance value you are calculating, right?
Sir, no, sir. Only weight loss method we are using, sir.
Okay.
Only weight loss method. Afterwards, we are using spectroscopy methods. FTIR
Please,
spectroscopy.
Show AC impedance spectroscopy.
AC impedance is used.
Normally, AC impedance is used in electrochemical stations, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
This is what. So go back, please. Back. One slide back.
One slide back.
Another one. This is a CDL is what you are calculating, right? Double layer capacitance.
Yeah, so it's mainly used.
Yeah. For this, you will be representing the chemical reaction using an equivalent circuit diagram, right? You understand my question, please? Using that equivalent circuit diagram only, you will have a resistance and a capacitance in parallel and another resistance, right? One resistance and capacitance will be in parallel, which will together be connected in series with the resistance. Is that the equivalent circuit model you have adopted, or some other equivalent circuit model adopted? That's what I want to know. Because normally it will be represented in a electrical sense.
Sir, whatever you have said is we have done in this project, sir. But we have considered that the spectroscopy with the FTIR, sir. To analyze the spectroscopy given by the substance by mild steel, which is deposited, which citric acid deposited on this mild steel.
Okay, I'll ask you, how did you determine charge transfer resistance? How will you determine the charge transfer resistance? RT is the function, right? One of the input variables to determine the double layer capacitance. No, you will be determining the charge transfer resistance. So please tell me how you will determine the charge transfer resistance. That's enough. You should know the mechanism behind which that. You please check that. Otherwise, it is good.
Yeah, I have a small clarification. You showed the chart where up to 250 ppm, it shows the maximum efficiency of more than 80%.
84%.
Yeah, 84%. I just wonder if you made 1000 ppm, could you have achieved around 100%?
Sir, no, sir. We have considered only a limited period of time, sir. Per day, 1 day we have considered, sir. So we have used 60.
Press to see the result, so that you would have gone up to 1000 ppm. so that you would have achieved some
Suppose
100%
the-
inhibition?
When we have using the, if we use 1000 ppm, the concentration varies and the corrosion resistance will also will decrease, sir. So we have we have only have limited, we are UG students, sir. We have only limited time. So we have taken only 1 day for the experiment. We have tried.
So the graph will be like a parabolic actually. It increases and then it will decreases.
Okay, I didn't
The
see
peak
that.
point will be the 250 ppm. Then
Okay.
after that it may decrease.
So that you have done some prior work, right? Based on that, you fixed the 250 ppm.
We have done up to 350 ppm. So in that 250 ppm the value will be the value is maximum.
Okay,
Then later it decreases gradually and then it
Okay, and
goes down.
it reverses.
Reverse
Okay,
it.
Fine.
Sorry, quick question because it's already late. All in all, it was a good presentation. My
you.
question regarding the material, what you have chosen. Why there is like cadmium, lead in mild steel? You know the terminology called mild in mild steel?
Mild means in the thicknesses will be mentioned.
No, actually the composition is very
So
less.
one second, sorry.
Yeah. Go back. Yeah, this is the one.
It's a dimensions actually.
No, you mentioned composition.
Composition.
So normally the mild steel means you have like iron, carbon, manganese, silicon, sulfur, phosphorus. Okay, these are 6 elements should be there. And what is the special about this steel? Because you have like lead and cadmium inside. The terminology mild in steel represents it has less amount of composition, chemical elements.
Yes, exactly.
So you have something called stainless steel. That will have more chemical elements like nickel, chromium. You might have like vanadium, titanium, something like that, for various reasons. But in this case, the mild means you should have only less number of elements. And I don't know where this lead and cadmium came. Just go and recheck it, okay? It might be like some error. I don't know. Check it.
It's a supporting element, sir.
May not be. Okay. Normally, the mild steel contains only very few elements. I haven't seen this lead and cadmium.
Sir, when what I was saying is right, but if you mix with some other elements, it may get react, right?
No, I think recheck the composition, okay? Because lead and cadmium I haven't seen in mild steel. Initial solution, you took out after a day or two. So how it will look? How the corrosion layer will look?
1 second, please.
The corrosion layer, how it will look? When you see your naked eye, you are not going under any microscope, just you look at the sample, what kind of observation you can see? Because you might have done it in the lab, how it will look. No, the simple question is, it will look like dots, okay? So normally this chloride attack is called pitting corrosion, so you should learn the fundamentals before going to that.
All right. Okay. There is a request from the organizer. We have another. Yeah, you finish. It is for all the presenter now. We have another 8 presentations. So we are already 1 hour late. We are going for moving to DNPL guest house for lunch, and the students we have arranged lunch here. So all the presentation 3 minutes for presentation, 2 minutes only for discussion. So among all the referees, 1 or 2 questions please raise. Just you go for the experimental part and conclusion. You please raise the 1 or 2 questions and finish within 5 minutes. Please request you, because we have a afternoon, we have a big program for, because this workshop is this program is for mainly for workshop. So we give more time for the workshop. Please requested all the presenter come. Please restrict to only 5 minutes. 3 minutes presentation, 2 minutes discussion. Because we have another 8 presentation is there. You also please go quickly.
Next, I welcome M. Ilakya, Government Arts College, Karur.
Yeah. All the best, yeah?
Yes, warm and pleasant afternoon to everyone here. So before entering into the project work, let me explain it let me sort out it first. My topic is synthesis and characterization of 3,4 dihydropyrimidine 2-ones, that is DHPM, by Biginelli method. Biginelli method is a reaction which between a beta keto ester and substituted aldehydes, especially first. Sorry, let me introduce myself first. I am Milakya. I have completed MSc Chemistry in Government Arts College, Karur. So I am here to explain this. Ma'am, first slide. Next one. Yeah. Yes. Biginelli reaction is it is a one-pot synthesis. It is between a substituted aldehyde, beta keto ester, and then urea. The one-pot reaction between all these three substances. Then Petro Biginelli, he was the first in 1893 who made this reaction, who reacted this benzaldehyde to benzaldehyde, ethyl acetoacetate and urea to form dihydropyrimidinone in a high yield. So it has its main application, and it is used as a drugs as antifungal or anti-cancer and anti-hypertensive drugs. Next. Yeah, next. Yeah. Next, experimental methods and materials used. So I have taken 4 reactions. I have undergone 4 reactions on this Biginelli method. So first, I have taken some substituted aldehydes, 4 substituted aldehydes, keto esters, urea, thiourea, and I used ethanol as a solvent. The methods which were used for characterization is FTIR method, that is using KBr pellets. Next. Synthesis of 3,4 dihydropyrimidine, that is DHPMS. Synthesis, first I have taken the substituted aldehyde as 2,5 dichlorobenzaldehyde, propyl acetoacetate and thiourea. I have taken all these components in 1:2:1 ratio. I got the product as a final thing. I have taken it here, right? This reaction takes place under acidic condition, and solvent used here is ethanol. Next. So the second reaction I have taken, the aldehyde, substituted aldehyde here is 2,5 dichlorobenzaldehyde, benzyl acetoacetate and urea, the same ratio as 1:2:1 ratio. So the final, after adding, as this is a one-pot synthesis, I have taken all this component in one pot. I have condensed it. Finally, I got the product, this one. This is the second product I got. The third one is, third aldehyde I have taken is 2,6 dichlorobenzaldehyde, propyl acetoacetate and thiourea, same ratio 1:2:1. The final product, same procedure, condensation within a one-pot synthesis. The final product I got here. Next one. The fourth reaction, the substituted aldehyde here is 2,6 dichlorobenzaldehyde, benzyl acetoacetate and urea. The ratio is 1:2:1. The final product which is mentioned here, benzyl for 2,6 dichlorophenyl, 6-methyl-2-oxo, 1,2,3,4 tetrahydropyrimidine, 5-carboxylate. Yes, these are all the 4 products which I got in the all 4 reaction. I have taken all the results. I've got as some product I got as a precipitate, some I got as a crystals. Two crystals were sent for the crystal studies. Yes, I have taken all the 4 results for FTIR studies. Next, results and discussion. Here I have taken all the 4 products as for the FTIR studies. The first one, next line. So this is the first the result I got in the first.
You can rush up. You can say in one statement. That's all.
So this is the first thing I have got for first result. So next one. Yeah, the peaks were obtained at the proper bands. Next one. This is for the second compound. Next. Yeah, here I have mentioned the peaks and it's where I have got everything and all. This is the third compounds one. Next one. Next. So this is for the fourth compound. So conclusion, so I have synthesized dihydropyrimidine compound derivatives from substituted aromatic aldehydes, ketoesters with urea and also as thiourea. The synthesized compound have characterized by FTR studies. So which is the chiral DHPMS, it is short form is DHPMS, that are important in a wide range of pharmacological functions as an anti-cancer activity, anti-inflammatory activity, antiviral activities. Yes, the later belong to a well-known class of cardiovascular drugs that serve as calcium channel modulus. Yeah, this future work is on the above synthesized compounds are further characterized by UV, NMR, elemental analysis, etc. Some of the compounds have crystalline forms. These crystals are sent for the X-ray diffraction studies. Yes, thank you. Any queries?
Yeah, thanks for completing in time. I have one query. How this study is relevant to the corrosion?
Studies, it was it can be discovered later, but I have taken this for as a drugs, pharmacological drugs.
Yeah, it's a good synthetic organic chemistry.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes.
One or two questions from audience.
Please welcome. Any questions?
Yeah, looks everyone is convinced. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Yes. See, I have to thank Arasu College of Arts and Science for Women and CSIR Central Electrochemical Research Institute Karakuri for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present my project. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sister.
Dear participants, have a lunch break. Please come back to the session at 2 p.m. Thank you all. Lunch at B.Ed office, near B.Ed office, ground floor.